Welcome to this episode of Stereotypos. I'm Josh,
And I'm Lena.
and we are excited to take you with us on our journey of what inspiring leaders wish they knew before.
Whether you are listening to this podcast on YouTube or Spotify, don't forget to join our LinkedIn group called Stereotypos too.
You can find more insights from our episode and become part of our network yourself. So let's buckle up and dive straight in with today's guest.
So, today we have Michael Benirschka with us. Michael is head of industry and sales success at SAP, one of the most impactful software companies globally, and despite the size of the organization, Michael shows us that he has kept the mentality and agility of a startup, or as he later puts it, a beginner's mindset. Now, what is special to me about Michael is a strong drive for purpose and a very modern concept of leadership and trust. We will ask him, as a young professional, do you actually need to build the trust or do you earn it from the beginning? So, in this episode, we talk about the importance of trusting your own passion, when and when definitely not to wear a hoodie at work, allowing yourself to also talk about the bad times, and lastly, we will challenge Michael by reversing the interview question and asking him, why should someone spend 20 minutes at the airport with you? So without further ado, let's welcome Michael and let's hear how he does this. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for the nice intro, Lina. Hi, welcome. Hi, Josh. Hi, Lina.
Michael, three speed questions for you. In the morning, are you like a coffee guy or a tea guy?
Definitely coffee. I'm a bit of a coffee junkie, and this actually was one of my first investments when I got a job, was a nice Italian coffee machine.
Nice. Saturday morning, you have nothing to do, no responsibilities for the day. What time do you wake up?
Rarely happens. Definitely grab a cup of coffee. Nothing to do is time for getting some TED Talks on the way, sit on the balcony, sit in the sun, and listen to some inspiring people.
All right, imagine a Friday morning, you have a lot of work to get done in the office or at home. Not many people around you. Would you wear a suit or a hoodie?
That shifted actually through the past years. Now I would shoot for hoodie, um, most definitely. When I got my first leadership role, I thought it was a little bit to represent also, and I thought, come on, you have well, maybe not a suit, but there's this saying, don't dress for your job, dress for the next job.
Yeah.
And but I think the nice thing is one of the good aspects of the pandemic is that you see a lot of people also in higher management positions are wearing hoodies, and this somehow is a culture aspect because it opens. If it makes you more everyday person, more it levels.
This is how it is at SAP. Higher management is wearing hoodies now after the pandemic strike.
Definitely,
Wow.
we just had our global all hands, and actually all our board members were wearing our 50-year anniversary hoodies. But all of them wore hoodies in
Very
the all
nice.
hands. So yeah, it shifted. Our CEO Christian Klein, I think he wears a suit but a t-shirt underneath, so he doesn't even wear a formal shirt.
Very nice. I can confirm I also have a hoodie. Um, so your title would be SAP Head of Industry and Sales Success. What is behind this job description?
Yes.
How would you describe what it is that you do in your daily
Yeah,
routine?
basically it's pretty easy. The good thing is at SAP we do not only trust in our employees, for most we also trust in the whole SAP community in our ecosystem. And I can really count myself lucky. I have the pleasure to drive our partner business in Germany with our mostly sell related partners, which means we're teaming up here so we can deliver our solutions to our customers throughout all customer segments, and this is what my team is driving end to end. So as we see, especially nowadays, with a lot of very relevant topics, and I mean from a sustainability perspective, these are socially relevant, ecologically relevant, and economically relevant topics. These are driven from an industry perspective. You need to have an understanding of what customer key challenges and key processes are all about. and what consumers truly require, and what the whole regulatory environment is putting upon you, to state it like this. And on my team, we have an understanding of the industry perspective, and we match this with where our partners are performing best, and bringing these teams together in order to scale and help a lot more customers than we would be able to do on our own.
Michael, you've been, and now coming to the core question of this podcast. When I look at your roadmap, you've started as an associate consultant, you've went up the ladder on the consultant path, you've been head of S4HANA LOB applications, and so on and so on. You have a lot of experience, at some point turned into a leadership role. So a very long path of, learning, I would assume. What are the things you wish you knew before?
Yes, I luckily I could prepare a thought or two about that. The first one, and maybe the most important one, I would say, is really trust in your own passion. Bring what you are, who you are, and it doesn't, honestly, and I know this sounds a bit funny, but it doesn't really matter what kind of job you're applying for or what will be your first role. I started as a consultant. I'm a bit of an extroverted person, and I always loved working with different people, and also, let's say, refresh that setup every now and then, and get to new people because I like having different opinions and developing into that. But early on, especially as a junior consultant, there's the tendency that you always have that idea you need to oversell a bit. Oh my God, I'm working with so many senior guys around me, and the customer is so senior, and all these guys around me are so experienced, and you do not really, or I at least, right? I at least didn't trust myself enough to bring that. Hey, that's interesting. I have a different idea around that, right? You are more in that consumption mode a little bit. And so one of the things where I just had to grow into was bringing that, isn't that interesting thought truly to a talk will always give you a completely different way of how a talk develops, or how projects develop, or how a final solution will develop, right? Because it's more a connecting thing rather than you always follow what others, you follow the path others already walked, right? Being very
That's
interested.
very interesting. That's very interesting. I think when I was applying for my first job without a permanent experience, CDI we say in French, permanent job experience in France. At that point, when I was interviewing, I hesitated to tell people that I had interviewers that I had a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
Because what does that come off like? Does it come off creative, or does it come off like I'm not focused and I have to spend a lot of time editing
Exactly.
videos? What does that look like for you? So at first, just to play it super safe, I wouldn't say it. But after getting the job, the fact that I made videos gave me a lot of kind of access to people who needed little help with video. Because video, even in companies like L'Oreal, LTI, we use videos to communicate internally, 30-second, 20-second videos. I don't know. I'm just asking for the benefit of someone who is in that shoe now, who's starting for a new job now. If they were interviewing with you, let's say, or a similar role for the same size in Germany, would it be a wise move to say that I'm into YouTubing or podcasting?
Definitely, because it shows that you're already one step ahead, because you're already, I mean, that's entrepreneurial thinking. You have something to talk about and you're showing that, right? You're not hiding it. You're showing that. And I think this is what we all should do more, because there's this, I don't know, I'll say it, it's a bit old fashioned maybe, but sharing is caring. And I truly mean that from the words which are in. If I have something which I learned, then I think it's my responsibility to share that, right? If I learn something great, please have it. If I missed something and I learned something out of that too, let's share it, right? So this is very common to do in the startup community, but it somehow gets lost, or it got lost in the corporate world, and now or since a couple of years already, actually, corporates are also getting back to that, right? And this is why we see all these innovation centers and etc., right, popping up like mushrooms. And I'm from Berlin, so there was a time in Berlin where the whole where streets completely changed their faces because just so many innovation centers were popping up like mushrooms, and every day you met new people and you said, "Oh, it's a startup." No, no, we belong to a great SAP customer, obviously, but we're the creative folks, which is also not working very well, I think, for most, right? But there was that time, and I think what corporates truly did learn out of that is exactly what you outlined, right? That this sharing, that also showing you do something which is completely off topic. I mean, why do you go to a job interview and say, "Hey, I did that too," right? I used to be a competitive swimmer. So what's interesting about that, I spent hours and hours and hours of improving my swimming skills and getting faster and faster and faster. And this is also important, I've had quite some successes. And this is something, this is important stuff. And if you say, "Hey, I do a YouTube channel," and can be about anything, can be about chess, can be about, I don't know, right? I truly don't care. It's just, hey, you're part of a community. You're investing in that community, right? You're caring and for that community. And this is important because in the end, this is what we're all looking for in a future employee.
I want to challenge your train of thought a bit, even though I do support it, but I want to challenge it and I want to do a reality check because throughout the past minutes, what is obvious that you come from a perspective where you say, as a young professional, you are empowered already as you come, as you are a person, as you bring your own values and experience. So you are empowered. Basically you have this, this leap of faith, and I give it to you from the beginning, and you don't just have to prove through a track record that you have deserved it. Doing a reality check on this, my feeling is, as doing a lot of interviews myself and being through this application period, this is not how it is in every company and in every job usually. And this is the past, I would say the past decades, how it has worked is you build up your track record, you show that you're worth the trust, you're worth the commitment, and you're worth the credit, and then eventually you get this, and then you get into a position where you can allow yourself, to talk about purpose and to talk about having a greater impact. And this is, to be very honest, the majority of realities that I still experience, even though, and this is something that I found very inspirational about you completely showed me that it works the other way around. What do you say to this reality check of this perception?
Unfortunately, you're right. And I think we still are not where we should be. And this is, I think, also a social culture thing in a lot of ways. But this is also, I think, where we're at the tipping point a little bit of where this is changing. You see more young leaders also in old and renowned companies, right? And you see a new mindset and the new mindset they bring. And this is not only, let's say, the cliche, we're all social media now, right? This is far more on leadership style and leadership values, right? And this trust as a currency, right? I mean, this comes with a price, and that's definitely so. From my perspective, there are two kinds of leaders. The one is you start with 100% trust and can only lose it. And the other one is you start with zero trust and need to build it, right? And now each and every one can ask themselves, where do I think would I strive more? Where would I grow more? Where would I bring more value from day one, right? Where would I want to work, right? And I think this you need to prove yourself mindset doesn't maybe deliver the best value. There are these so-called diminishing leaders, right? And some of them are very, very successful. So it's a working management style, I have to admit. Maybe one of the more prominent examples would be Steve Jobs and Apple. And he was the diminishing leader in a lot of fashion because he was the smartest guy in the room. He was telling everybody what they had to do. Still, they delivered, at least for a certain time period, innovation like no one else could, right? Disrupted not only product categories, but market segments, etc., etc., and created and truly left a dent in the universe. Still, I think that this is an outlier in a way, right? That on a broader fashion, the trustful leadership style, where if I didn't put trust in you and give you that freedom and responsibility from day one, why did I hire you in the first place? So the reality check, yes, there's room for improvement. but I think we're on a good way.
What are the other things that you wish you knew before?
I think one aspect, and this also pays into a little bit what I already stated, is share everything. This is not only share your I don't know, your YouTube channel or share your sports history or something. This is so to make it very crisp. For me as a leader, I very openly share if I have a bad day, right? I know I need to be, there's always this cliche, oh, that guy, I don't know how he does it. He's working 20 hours a day, on and he's always on and he's always motivating. And no, I'm not. I'm a human being and I have my bad days. And I have bad days where I think, come on, why that on top? I'm so frustrated. And if you share that, you create a room. You create an open space where you allow others to share that too. So this is also leadership. Show that it's completely fine if you have a bad day to talk about it. You're not a machine, you're not a robot, right? So AI will solve a couple of these problems and get a bit rid of some frustration we are suffering now at the moment. But I think that human part will grow. And from my perspective, we need more leaders to truly do that, to tell it they have a bad day, because a couple of minutes ago I stated that we need a sustainable way of performing, and this is something I learned actually from a soccer coach, and he said, if you are a professional athlete, you don't deliver your top performance on a linear line, right? You train for certain events. So if you should deliver top performance, it's waves. It's always waves. It looks like more like a sinus curve. And in the job, it's the same. And this is something mindfulness, etc. There's a reason why this is all over the place in the business world since a couple of years, because people found out that this health of the mind is also very important, and this is also something which you need to role model as a leader too. But I had to learn, right? I learned that from reaction when I got my divorce, and I shared that openly, and the kind of reactions you got from the team, right? This was one of the
Yeah.
fundamental learnings I had, and it was not on purpose or planned. It just happened. Exactly.
Even as a leader, you're still human, and this comes back to the hoodie topic. Finally, I think, because this is one of the learnings that I had in the last years. Um, Wearing a hoodie also has to do a lot with, you can be the same person that you are in your free time in your corporate job. Yes, in my free time, I'm wearing sweatpants and hoodies, all over because it makes me feel comfortable. So why shouldn't I feel that comfortable during my job also wearing a hoodie when it's appropriate, right? And this is one of the good things I think that came with the pandemic.
Maybe as we a little bit also in how to prepare for an interview, right? And what to do. So to state that very clearly, don't come in a hoodie to your first interview, okay? This is so it's a bit of a line, and it's just important to differentiate a little bit, right? So dress in respect to the person you're talking to. So if you go to a customer meeting and you know that customer is, let's say they are all in suits, respect that, because this is a sign of that you show respect to their culture as well, and this is something important. And the same goes for an interview, right? In a way, if you're going to a startup, it's a bit of a different story, right? But I think it's a facade, so you can drop that after a certain period, right? Because being yourself and being bring who you are and what you are, this is like the culture and the atmosphere I want to create as a leader, because this will create then in the following one, a team will not perform because they have a great leader. This might be one aspect, but a team will perform if they trust each other, if they know each other, if they care and share for and with each other. This is what makes teams successful, right? This is why all these holacracy concepts, etc., are actually working, because in a way, we most of us bring this wish to drive their passion, right? So when I say, hey, bring your passion to your work and find ways on how you can incorporate it, right? If you are a YouTube master and have editing skills and start as a consultant, hey, come on, make awesome, awesome customer reference videos or talk or find what people in these projects are talking about, what are they behind, and bring that to your community, right? So there's always ways if you have that passion, if you're a gamer, there's so many analogies where you can truly incorporate that into the new working world. And as we see, jobs are evolving, right? Consultant work is evolving, development work is evolving. We're seeing that the skills required are changing so much, right? Yes, if I'm a coder, I should know how to code, but in the end, the way how I think, right? How eager I am to also work based on creations of others and then grow them further. This is something you can adapt also to a lot of other roles, right? And this is why it's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one advice as well, and I'm sorry, but you get me talking, is change roles every now and then. I shifted I could have really successfully stay in our consultancy organization and say, yes, this is where I have 10 years of experience. I know pretty much up to global level all of my internal colleagues. I know whom to go to, whom to ask. I know the customer landscape. This would be fine. And I challenge myself and say, yes, but I work with partners and I'm an ecosystem thinking person. And I think you can always jointly do more than on your own. And luckily, we have that ecosystem, and it's not only partners, it's universities, academia, it's NGOs, it's government, it's etc. And it's a very broad ecosystem we have. So, and if I want to deliver, then jump into that. So I started from
Yeah.
scratch, basically, based on the experience I had from my consultant roles. But on the other hand, without that, I wouldn't be able to understand the business models of our partners or of other companies as well, right? So, but challenge yourself in your goals and in your roles, because this will just multiply your learning opportunity.
It's really nice to hear this from you, Mikhail. At least for me, I know that I kept my personal life really private from work, thinking that it would be too distracting or too demotivating for my employer. But just hearing these things, I know lately after I got a fancy job, I changed my LinkedIn picture to one with just a t-shirt because that's how I usually look, you know.
Yeah.
And I know when it's an interview time or an important presentation in my current company, I will go neatly dressed, of course. Otherwise, I look like the shabby one. But on LinkedIn on a regular Wednesday afternoon when there's nothing planned and no important corporate meetings, I wear a lumberjack shirt, I wear jeans and shoes. So yeah, this is really nice to hear,
Yeah.
to bring your authentic self and to bring your passion projects. I would not have thought that this is the right way a few years ago when I first started, but it's so nice that you're saying this and not because a young guy will say whatever he wants, but it's nice to hear from you who has experience, who's worked with people to say this, that this is, it makes you human. It's really nice to hear that.
Let's speak about the idea of this podcast. It's called Stereotypos, and this means stereotypical mistakes. And we think, there's this experience gap. Is this something that you've observed with yourself or something that you've observed with young professionals joining your team in the past?
Yeah, most definitely. And actually, I think it's quite normal because your education can just give you, let's say, a broad perspective, or in the ideal case, it gives you a broader perspective and leads you to your first job and gives you the certainty for a good starting point. And then you'll dive in and find out what it's really out about and what you really need to learn. And I think most of that is also about yourself and your ideas, your passion, your purpose. You already said this is a fundamental part of what I believe is very important, and to follow that course. And you can't learn that in school. And I think, and this is the good part, that leadership culture is changing, that there are some very inspiring leaders on an international base and speakers. And if you dive into that, they share very openly and very loud that this has to change, right? You don't look
Mm.
for the expert. You look for someone in a job who's who's bringing the motivation to learn what is needed to solve problems or to drive your success in the end forward, right? So
Okay.
I don't hire you to tell you what you need to do. I hire you because I trust in you that you will find a way to do what you should do, right? And this is changing, I think, fundamentally. We're not um, in the area where bosses are telling their employees on what they need to do, luckily.
One point that Josh and I spoke about in episode 0 is, one very common question is, why would I spend 20 minutes at the airport with you? And I want to be brave right here and ask you as a leader, you've probably experienced this also. So what would your ideal answer or what would your personal answer be to this? Why should we spend 20 minutes with you at an airport? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, for sure. And actually I like that idea of a reverse interview question because in the end, and seriously, we're in a situation where you always hear that war for talent, and I think every hiring manager should we all should ask ourselves if we are lucky enough to get talent, why should you spend time with us, right? So my personal answer would be I guess you'll find out something about yourself because I'm a very open-minded person and I bring a beginner's mindset, and this is something which I learned, right? I think when you're young, and I've been there too, you always think you need to show that you're an expert, right? You read that what's required for that role, and it's yeah, you're maybe like 23 to 24 years old. You have 10 years of working experience in various roles, most hopefully international. Seriously, right? So it's always a bit ridiculous reading all that because nobody fulfills that, and it's so obvious that it's filter criteria to just shorten the list of potential candidates in a lot of ways, or showing that you get people who truly trust in yourself. And I think if you bring that beginner's mindset, that doesn't mean that you don't know your stuff, but that means that you're always interested in another person's opinion, in another person's learnings from the past. And if you bring that, and Lena, if talks develop differently, right? You have more open room and you go into areas where you wouldn't go otherwise. And I think this is what I can bring to the table, and I do that in my role now. I do that in my past roles, no matter what. So I guess you might learn something about your passion and about your purpose when spending 20 minutes with me, because I'm eager to learn that about you.
That's so insightful. It sounds like you interview quite a lot, don't you?
Yeah, actually, this was one of the first parts when I became a leader. And honestly, this is nothing where you get taught or where you get, it's okay. Now you qualified. Please do interviews. And this, on the one hand side, you always look into that and think, come on, you got to be prepared. I mean, seriously, you're hiring from external. Oh my God, you're bringing employees to this company. Um, on the other side, this is something where your company fully puts trust into your, call it gut feeling, right? So that you'll hire the best talent and that they'll give you that freedom and that responsibility. And that's the second concept, which is quite important. So yes, I do some interviews, but there are phases, right? If you in corporate world, if you have headcount, you can interview. If you don't, you don't.
Since you said it a few seconds ago, a few minutes ago, it's been in my head. When you get someone into your team as a junior, you are expecting them to tell you what or how to do it instead of you telling them what or how to do something.
Yes.
To pick this person in your interview process in the past, have you felt this feeling of, oh, this is way too many red flags, I can't work with this person? And if you felt that way, which were the red flags you felt in an interview?
I think one of the main fails you can do is not being your true self. And this is said so easy, and we all always read and hear authenticity is key, but I can't stress this enough. If I have a feeling someone's playing a role or someone's trying to please me or telling me what I want to hear, this is for me personally a red flag. right? Because you in the end, no matter what role you're in, you want leaders, you want people who stand behind their own idea and their values. And this is what makes it, and these can be completely different from mine. But if I have a feeling you hide these, or you're afraid to show, or you're trying to understand more of mine and then tell me things which pay into this, this is not authentic, and this is a red flag. So be your authentic self. And if maybe as an addition, if you don't know what your values are, strive for opportunities to learn about this. Surround yourself with people with different opinions and different experience, and find out. And I think this is a fundamental key learning which will help you be so much more not only successful but being successful in a sustainable fashion, right? Because this is not a sprint. Career is not a sprint. Your work will be a real, you'd spend a very large amount of your life in your work, right? So it should be something which you love doing.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is an Indian outlook or if it was just me being very nervous and timid. But when I would go to interviews, I would always feel like the lower hand, meaning I would always see to make sure that I answered the questions the best way possible. And then I learned that I can ask questions too. So I
Exactly.
would start asking, I would start asking the interviewer when they say any questions. I wouldn't say no, thank you. I would say, yeah, what makes your best employee stand out? What are you
Yes.
looking for in
Yes.
the, these kind of questions. So I think it almost sounds like cheating, but it's really good to know what the person wants or what the person looks for because it has to be a two-way street. So in that spirit, for you, what's like a green flag? Meaning, what are you looking for in a
Mhm.
candidate which makes you
Mhm.
say, this is the one?
You just actually stated it, showing an interest, right? Bringing your passion, and I mean, if you have candidates who don't ask questions, I mean, especially if it's if you're hiring external, it leaves a taste, and it could be a tremendously good interview, but if there's no question, this always leaves a little bit of a bad taste, I would say. This always looks like, seriously? It's like if you give a presentation and then, okay, and now it's the Q&A part and nobody has a question, how does that leave you, right? How do you feel,
I was
right?
that guy.
It's
I would
actually,
say, no, thank you. Good day.
yeah. It's actually, you were so interested. Okay, right? No, you wouldn't, right? It would just leave a not such a good impression to Michael. Asking questions, being prepared is definitely a green flag. But honestly, what I'm looking most for is if you feel people are showing their passion. And it can be anything. It can be sports. It can be anything. But you should be able to show that. I think this is really key. Have that spark of whatever. Have that spark which gives you inspiration, and bring that to an interview and talk about that and show that. Because in the end, I hire you as a person with your values, with your ideas, with your vision, with your passion. I don't hire you for what you've learned in the past. I mean, yes, experience is valuable, and if you hire a senior guy, then it's a bit of a different thing, right? But especially, I hire you for your openness, and for that you want to learn stuff. I mean, you always should do that, right? That never
Mhm.
stops, especially not in our industry, but I think in none, right? I hire you if I have an
Yeah.
understanding, hey, that guy truly wants to learn and develop continuously. This is a green flag. Maybe one final thought. If you're new to a job, or if you're trying to jump into a new job, chances are that you surround yourself with a ton of people who have the same job and are from the same community. And I would challenge you that you should try from day one also being part of other communities, right? And keep your network as open as possible, following your interests, right? So this beginner's mindset, isn't that interesting, right? You could say I'm a tech guy. I'm very high level in almost all United Nations sustainability topics, be it gender equality, be it clean energy, be it whatsoever, right? But actually, if you start talking with me, I'm interested in all of these, right? And if you meet experts, and this is, you always take something with you which will help you in your current role and prepare you for the next one.
Very inspiring. And Michael, I'm afraid you said so many inspiring words that you have a new community of fans. Tell me, how can young, professionals or anyone listen to this podcast find you or follow you if they want to, follow your journey and reach out to you?
I'm on LinkedIn. so, so happy share my LinkedIn contacts. You can drop me a message, you can drop me a mail. I'm very open with my contact details on LinkedIn. So if I'm always eager to get to learn and meet new inspiring and open open new minds, right? Joining this lovely community we're all about.
Amazing.
And I mean, Lena knows that, right? And we just briefly touched a little bit that purpose part. Um, but I think we not only should, we must connect more.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. Stereotypos is so much more than just a podcast, so don't forget to join our LinkedIn group called Stereotypos, where you can find even more content, network with our speakers and other inspirational career starters. You'll also find the video versions of our podcast on YouTube. All links in the description. Stay tuned for the next episode and see you around.